Hey everyone, today we're gonna make a double chocolate zucchini bread with einkorn flour. I am in October right now. If you're watching this, I don't know when you're watching, but it's October here. But I have had so many zucchinis come from out of the garden. I don't know what happened to my zucchini plant, but it kind of exploded as soon as September came. Like it wasn't giving a ton, and then September came and it started exploding, and it was giving me so many zucchini until like the beginning of October. And so I've actually given some to our animals, but I still have a bunch to do things with. And so I'm going to show you how I go ahead and I grate them to preserve them and save them for zucchini bread to make later on in the year. And then I will also show you how to make the double chocolate zucchini bread loaves with the einkorn flour. So let me show you how to get started. As always, this recipe will be on the blog Hilltop in the Valley. You can go there and you can print it out so you have it in front of you to follow along. There are also free printable einkorn recipes that you can grab from the blog. I believe they're called recipe cards. So they're like a printable recipe card that you can print off. So I will put the link for that down below and you can go ahead and go there and get your freebies. So today we're going to start with our zucchini right on our cutting board. I'll go get it and we'll bring it right on over. So these ones have been sitting around, so they've got some ickies on the outside. I'm going to go ahead and just peel those off. But the reason I like this variety of zucchini is because it has a very thin skin on it. And so I generally just cook it without peeling. And this is called a long white of Palermo, I think is the name. And I got it from Baker Creek. And I have really liked it. The only bad thing is that it gets nicks and scrapes really easily. But other than that, I love not having the thick skin. It just cooks so beautifully. So I will peel this a little bit though. I like to save my zucchini by shredding it and then measuring it out into 4-cup bags. So I will kind of let the water run out of it. I'll show you how to do that. And then I will just fill up 4 cups of the zucchini into a freezer bag. And then when I go to get the zucchini out of the freezer, I already know that it is going to be 4 cups. And I'll write that down on the bag also, but then I know the amount. I know that I can use it in this recipe because this recipe calls for 4 cups of zucchini, and I can just make it automatically. I also like this particular variety because it doesn't have a lot of really horrible seeds in it, and I don't know, like there's nothing that thick about it, whether it's the skin or the insides. It's very delicate. I generally let the zucchini drain for about 10 minutes, but this time I helped it a little bit more for time's sake. Next, I put together the wet ingredients and beat some air into them. You don't have to make this double chocolate recipe a double chocolate recipe, of course. You could omit the cocoa powder and the chocolate chips, or you could just put in the chocolate chips. But you could just make it plain zucchini bread as well. Oh, the sourdough. This recipe also uses sourdough starter. You don't have to have your starter all bubbly and ready to go. You can just kind of use your discard with this recipe, which is great. The sugar I'm using with this recipe is coconut, but any dark sugar with kind of a molasses flavor will work. You could use brown sugar, coconut sugar, maple sugar. I'm using some chocolate chips that are sweetened with coconut sugar this time. I got these from Azure Standard. I love to do my once a month pickup from them and get pantry items, especially since the holidays are coming. This is a time when I'm looking at filling up my pantry for all of that winter baking. And I saw this and I just wanted to try it. And so here it is this month. I'm trying some coconut sugar sweetened chocolate chips. The nice thing about this bread is that it works well with whole grain flavor. So if you're wanting to use up fresh ground flour, or you're just wanting the extra nutrition from using whole grain einkorn, these quick breads are a great way to use them. And both the spice, the dark sugar flavor, and the chocolate work well with whole grains. And I also have a freebie cheat sheet with what works for whole grains versus all-purpose einkorn flour. And I will put a link to that in the description box so you guys can go and grab that. It just gives you some ideas for what will work if you're trying to use up that whole grain flour. And I just put my dry ingredients on top. I was able to save 4 cups plus another 2 cups of zucchini from grating it, and I go ahead and I write down the amounts on the bags that I'm using, and then I put those into the freezer. I flatten them out so that they freeze flat and not kind of in the big ball. After filling half of the batter in the loaf pan, I go ahead and I sprinkle on the chocolate chips. I don't use all of them. I use about half of them halfway through, and then I pour the rest of the batter on top, or spoon it on top. And then I will go ahead and sprinkle the rest of the chocolate chips on when I am ready to bake these. But right now, I gotta go pick up some kids, and so I'm going to cover this and put it in the fridge. And then I will go ahead and sprinkle the chocolate chips on the top when I return and get ready to bake it. And while these are baking, I thought it would be fun to go outside and bring some of my zucchini that is not so good to the animals. And I also thought it'd be fun to take you for a visit to see our colt who was born this last spring. In one of my recent videos that I did back in early March, he was born. It's the Einkorn, whole grain Einkorn sourdough pizza recipe video that I did, and during that video we went and we got to see our 1-day-old colt. It was such a fun video to make, and the pizza was great too. But I thought it's been a while, and so I would go ahead and just bring you out here and we could take a look at him and say hi again, because you know what, the babies don't last long. They're not babies for long, right? If you are looking for other autumn-inspired einkorn recipes, check out my pumpkin dinner rolls recipe I use for Thanksgiving. Those are so yummy. So after I come back in and I take this out of the oven, it does have to sit for about 15 minutes before I take it out of the loaf pans. Otherwise, it will completely fall apart. That's one thing that is hard for me with bread, is that it does take a long time to cool off. And of course, when we first cut this open, our first loaf did fall apart because the kids just wanted to have some right away and we were getting ready to go. And so I went ahead and I cut some for them. And yes, it did start to fall apart. But the loaf that did get to cool off completely held together just so wonderfully. And so, as always, I will recommend that you wait at least an hour before cutting into these, as hard as it may be. The results are wonderful. This is a really yummy bread. It's great for either dessert or snack, for tea time, for coffee, all of the above. And I hope you guys are enjoying this beautiful fall weather. You can also check out our pumpkin scone recipe made with pumpkins grown in our own garden. So I hope that these inspire you. I hope that you are finding ways to nurture and nourish your family this fall and enjoying the beauty around you. I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.